All right. Welcome. Nick, good to see you.
Hello,
Fir-
hello.
First episode of the new year of 2026. We
Yeah,
took a little break in January. I had to unfortunately reschedule the last session due to some sickness and just kind of like, I feel like everybody right now is like having coughs or like something going on. And I was hit hard. I was just telling you back to back for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm happy we can do this today.
yeah. I'm happy we're here too.
How's everything? We know how we start. We always start with like, where's Nick in the world? Last time we talked, you were traveling back in the US. So
Yeah,
now you're
now,
probably back in Europe.
yes, good job, good job. Where in the world is Nick? And yeah, I'm back in Europe. Back in Europe, we just moved into a new apartment, and so making sure that that's in a good spot. And then just doing some weekend trips to other cities in Europe. We're gonna go to,
Nice.
yeah, it's really fun. We're enjoying it a lot.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Yeah, I mean it's so easy to
Yeah,
travel over there. It's like that's like the
yeah,
best part.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And now less tourists as well, so it's pretty nice.
Oh man, perfect. I would say like what a year to kick it off. I would say January AI news were kind of like slow, and then you get into February, you're like boom, every day there's like something, and you're like, what is going on? Like it's just like so crazy what's happening right
Yeah.
now again. It's like everybody woke up from the winter break. Um, we have tons to cover. I think lots of really cool stuff actually that's been happening at the beginning of the year. Um, it's kind of crazy. Whenever you think there's like a small break, somebody comes out and is like, "Never mind, I got a cool like I got this like latest sick cool tool. Like you should be
Yeah.
using it." I feel like I scroll like my X feed sometimes. I'm like, should I just be like not sleeping anymore? Like I feel like I should just be like working all the time and like using tools and like I realize never mind. Like you're it's like a little tech bubble sometimes. It's okay. You're fine.
Yeah.
Like but it's just crazy. Like lots
JP,
of
you got to
people
set up an
tinkering around.
agent. You got to set up an agent to pull all that info.
To pull that info from me, yeah, I
Yeah.
probably should. But then
Then you can keep on sleeping.
yeah. The problem is not getting the information. The problem is like I want to try
Yeah.
it all out, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
know. I
that's
know.
like the hard part, right? You kind of want to like dive into it and like set it up, and I'm like, man, I'm excited. I have a couple like days coming up, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna set up some like my open claw bot. I think I'm gonna like
All
dabble
right.
around with that and do that. Um, but yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued what's going
Nice.
on right now. But let's dive in. Obviously, we there's a lot going on. We'll start with the
Hmm.
very basics, and then I think we're gonna raise kind of like the stakes
Yep.
as we go on. But I think from just like a interesting point of view, I think there is still this massive battle going on around like consumer adoption, etc. So, OpenAI kind of released now free access or gated access and building in ads. Um, we saw Anthropic kind of like making fun about that in a Super Bowl ad, I think, and kind of like mocking OpenAI basically of like, you're asking for something and they're like, oh, by the way, this can
Yeah.
help, buy
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Those ads are great. They did a
Yes.
really good job with that.
I think they did a great job. They killed it, and
Yeah.
it's almost like obviously that's not going to be the experience, but like obviously you're going to open yourself up to that, to that kind of like marketing if you say like I'm going to have ads now, and I think they're just trying to increase their adoption. I think they're seeing that people just like maybe don't have the money or maybe they don't want to spend the money yet, even though it's just maybe a $20 a month. Um, or they want to increase the usage and kind of sponsor that by ads. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think the free usage is great. You can just like use it for a little bit, but like that's going to catch up to you eventually. So
Yeah.
I think building up the ad network and kind of competing there with Google makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. It's I mean they burn money so quickly. So they need more revenue streams, and this is definitely one of them. Interesting thing I heard about this also is that they're doing it by impressions, not by clicks.
Yes.
And I used to work at Google and had worked with ads in the past, and the clients love the clicks. That's a much more important
Yeah.
measurement. But the impressions, that's where they're starting with, and they're trying to, I think, hold the brakes on the clicks part as much as possible to bring in that revenue.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting because I thought maybe it's a great opportunity for small businesses to kind of get started there. I thought they're gonna maybe like open it up for like smaller businesses, but I think they're going actually the opposite route. I think they're
Yeah.
going the route of like your ad budget has to be like X amount, um, because they're probably trying to work with a couple of like big vendors and then kind of like have like these ads over and over again. Also, impressions can get pretty spicy or like pretty expensive pretty quickly, especially with like all the sessions that you have. So I think that they're probably going to focus on like the big ones now. But yeah, interested to see how it plays out. Obviously, I have the paid version, so I won't see that. But
actually, I don't pay for ChatGPT, so I could actually play around with it and see what
oh,
the ads look
interesting.
like.
You stopped
Yeah.
paying. You stopped paying. You
I
abandoned it.
stopped paying. Look, working in AI, I was paying for ChatGPT,
Yeah,
Claude, all of these different ones, and Gemini. So just like I can't do all of this.
yeah.
So I sort of focused in on one. And right now for me, that's Perplexity. I don't know if that's
Still okay.
still Perplexity because I can choose the different models
Yeah.
inside. So for me, for right now, that's still going strong.
So it's kind of
What
funny
about
you
you?
meant. It's kind of so I'm kind of like on the boat. I have everything right now.
Okay.
Mostly because I feel like there's still like it's still not cheap enough, but like I pay probably like total like $100 a month, right?
Yeah.
Um, but there is enough where I want to tinker around with stuff. Like
Yeah.
OpenAI came out with Codex, like like
Yeah.
a standalone Codex app, so I wanted to play around with that. Same with Claude. We're diving into like a bunch of like Claude news that we like that they released. They released like like an amazing new product. But like Codex got released, and so I wanted to play around with Codex, which is kind of like the coding assistant to build apps. And they then released exclusive access to certain models early on Codex to kind of promote it. And so I play with that. I actually the one that I use the least is Perplexity,
Yeah.
mostly because I have access to all the models. But
Yeah.
I am
Fair.
very close to canceling ChatGPT because I see myself using the most Claude for coding and just for general purpose work, basically. And then I use Grok a lot because it just has like the best real-time news experience with like the X feed, etc. So they just like do a really great job at and I have X Premium already, so it kind of comes for free. It kind of built in, so like that's kind of like the two I use the most. And so I'm almost canceling ChatGPT. And funny you said that. The only thing that kind of like pulled me back is I had a couple of projects in there to do some research on content and stuff like that. And they recently upgraded the deep research model behind the scenes. And now it's completely useless. It's ignoring all my instructions. And it's like, it's just proposing something that's completely out of term. And I'm like, what
No.
happened? And so it completely broke. And so now it forced me to rebuild this project in Claude. And like literally the last piece that was holding me on is now kind of like gone because I was kind of like too lazy to migrate it over. So now that's in Claude as well. And so I was actually like very shocked that it completely broke. Like the output was consistently good and the same for 3 months. And then they made the model update and it completely broke. Like completely different output.
Jeez.
And I don't know why. Like the quality is better, but it's all over the place. Like I would say it gathers more information, it does more research, but the output is completely not what I want. And I'm like, that's useless to me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what they're trying to do. It kind of seems like an overshot over the moon. But yeah, I don't know. I can't use it anymore. So I'm very close to canceling it actually. So maybe I'm with you soon. I'm like having the free version.
Yeah. Exactly. We can share the ads next time.
Yes, but I'm staying for Codex, so I'm interested to see because what I've seen is, and what I'm a little bit afraid of actually on the pessimistic side is that some of these companies like OpenAI are going to develop a mode where they're going to make things exclusive to their applications. So meaning today when there's models, they're through the API, meaning every single developer, every single tool can pick up the API and they can use the models. But they've started to do this thing where they release it exclusively for Codex. And so if that becomes a pattern, then obviously it kind of forces you into like their environment, into their tooling, into their subscription model. So I don't know how defensible it is, given that like Anthropic hasn't done it yet. They played a complete opposite game. And so I don't know if they're going to be successful, but the Codex model is really good. Like the coding model that they released, the latest version, like 5.3 Codex, is phenomenally good. And so they have some defensibility there, but yeah, we'll see. I'm interested to see how that plays out. also more news. They obviously acquired another startup or another open source project, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, Codex 5.3 came out. I think that was like the big news here. And then Anthropic came out with updates on Opus 4.6 and Sonnet 4.6. Did you see that hype release on Twitter that went around of like a couple days ago on like, I think it was last week, where they all thought Sonnet 4.6 was going to be released, and then it was a day later and it turned out to be Opus, and like it was like from their seller, like some account was like hyping it up, maybe it was like going crazy, and it's like, it's gonna come, it's gonna be amazing, and like nothing came.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
That's so crazy. So there are two new releases that really came out, and both of them kind of go in different directions. Codex with GPT 5.3 is much more about sort of like the solo work, the longer hours, and like just coding and just going. And the Claude Opus 4.6 is much more about multi-agent connections and everything there. So it's already sort of showing that where these large companies are sort of focusing their time and effort on, and the direction they're sort of betting on. Claude, Anthropic, as we said, I think in the past also, they're really focusing on enterprise and enterprises in general. And so for them, that makes sense. The multi-agents, having an agent be sort of an expert in certain areas, while the Codex GPT 5.3 is much more focused on coding and really getting people into the system that way, and then sort of expanding there.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think it's, and I think even Claude came out with a multi-agent like feature flag now. Kind of supporting what you were saying, where instead of like having one kind of agent run it, you can now spawn multiple ones at the same time, and they kind of work in parallel. But yeah, I think it's very interesting that the new Sonnet model, which is so like just to kind of reference or like bring back memory, is like Sonnet is kind of like faster, less intelligent, and then Opus is almost like the intelligent, more expensive, slower model. But then Sonnet came out yesterday, and it's like almost the same. In terms of like the intelligence. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder like if they just diverge eventually. That's what I really like about like what ChatGPT did or what OpenAI did, is they kind of like just called it one model, and then behind the scenes it kind of switches off and on, right? But it takes out the complexity basically. But and then they came out with like a fast version of Opus that was like twice as fast, but 4 to 6 times more expensive, and everybody's like, I don't know if that's gonna be like the thing here. Like,
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, it's already expensive enough as you kind of like burn through the tokens. It's kind of crazy.
And it's already way faster than what we would be able to do anyway.
I mean, it's getting faster every time. And I think we're gonna see the biggest changes in speed this year, I think, because all these partnerships between the chip makers and the big companies that allow them to kind of like just run inference on a different technology stack. Like we saw it with Codex, like they partnered up with Cerebras, I think it's called. And so like their chips are 2 times faster than just like running it on the NVIDIA chips, for example. And so the response rates are just like much faster, which is nice because you don't have to sit there and wait for the responses as long, which is great as you kind of like do more complex work.
Yep. Very important. Nice. What's next? We got the Google Workspace. JP.
Yes, I think they're crushing it. I mean, look, Google. We talked about it many times. They were super behind, and then they got their shit together, and now they're coming out with an entire workspace studio, basically, where you have access to a bunch of different AI agents that like lets you automate stuff within your G Suite. There is also this like multi-tool integration across all of the different tools. Like if you can do summaries of emails and then Google Meets and transcripts and Google Docs, and it kind of all works together. And I think I personally was waiting for this of like, you have all my data, like just make it all work together. I think one of the most frustrating things is like in Google Docs, you can't like, Gemini can't update the doc. It will give you content, but it won't update the document. I'm like, why not? Like it's like simple things like that. But then they came out with all these toolings now in this workspace studio, including for Gmail, and they even give you now this like home assistant or personal assistant vibe where you have like a landing page and it kind of shows you like these are all the emails you should work on today. Like here's your tasks, here's what you should respond to. So I was waiting for this because they have access to all the data. I don't have to worry about like security because like part of my security suite already with G Suite. They have all the right permissions, and it kind of just builds in, it works in, right? So there's a bunch of like apps that do this, like Fixer and like all the classifications and stuff like that. But I think that Google will eat their lunch, and they will just come up with it and build it into the G Suite. And it's kind of comes built in, and the user experience I think will be the best there, because you don't have to log into a separate service or install a plugin. It will just come, and then it will automatically work with all the other tools. Like no more manual plugins and no more installing stuff. It will just work, which I think is like really cool. I haven't seen something similar from Microsoft yet with Copilot. I feel like they kind of got stuck a little bit. I could be wrong. I haven't used a PC in like, I don't know, 12 years. But it feels like that Google is kind of like on a rapid move forward here to kind of like, really take advantage of also the fact that all their tools are web-based. They don't really have like desktop apps, right? So they don't have like this problem where people work with like Excel or Word on the desktop. It's all like online based.
Yeah. Well, and what you see also with Google as well as Microsoft, they also are the enterprise play, and they already have a lot of enterprises and a lot of companies that are using their products.
Yeah.
And it's sticky. It's hard to switch. It's hard to move over to something else. And so they're just playing a little bit of a longer game where, yeah, they're going to connect it and make it work, but it's just going to take a little bit longer. For my work, we use Gemini, and we use Google, and it's already, since the last 3 months or so, is much better at pulling the docs that I've worked on recently, summarizing emails, and adding all of that into a new doc or creating new things. So they are moving forward there, which is really nice. And we'll just see that continue.
Yes, I agree. I was trying to look up what it's called, but I was trying to find like this homepage again, but I can't find it. Maybe I'll find it later and add to the notes. But it was really cool because it basically just like did all the tasks for you and kind of like laid out like what you have to focus on based on your calendar and your emails. And kind of works like a personal assistant. It does all the work for you automatically, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, nice.
Very exciting.
Speaking of personal assistants, uh, on January 1st, actually, I looked this up. OpenClaw was released in a very different name. At that point, it was, what was it again?
It was CloudBot, no?
CloudBot, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
CloudBot.
It was
But
CloudBot.
with a W, like Claude, like with a W.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So it was CloudBot. It was published, open source on GitHub. So many people downloaded it. So many people connected to it. What is it? What is OpenClaw?
You tell me. You get started. You tell me. I think you tell me. I have an interesting take on this, so you tell me.
Ooh, curious to hear. Okay. So yes, it was an open source project that a lot of people started downloading, and what it does is it's essentially an assistant that you can integrate and connect all of your tools with. So you can connect it to WhatsApp, you can connect it to your emails, you can connect it to everything on your computer. And the greatness of that is you can do a lot with it. You can just message it in WhatsApp. It will also even like spawn up or create new projects and also new things. So you can even WhatsApp it and say, "Hey, I want to make a reservation at a restaurant."
Yeah.
It will then create a voice for itself. It will figure out a way to actually make a phone call through Twilio or other tools, and then we'll actually make a phone call and actually make a reservation. So it's it's sort of the first time where we're seeing, it's a big watershed moment, I think, in AI, where now, yet last year was supposedly the year of the agent. This is the year of the agent, where we are actually able to create our own agents that work for us and do our own things, instead of us trying to integrate into a ChatGPT or other sort of connections. That said, I do need to say one more thing about it. Disclaimer, it's super, super scary. You should not, you should not connect everything to it. Not without really knowing how to code, not knowing how how to make sure that it's completely safe because it will message people on WhatsApp. It will connect to different things and do funky things. It's Gen AI, so it'll do unpredictable things.
Yes.
Um, so keep that in mind as well. But there are safe ways to do it. Um, Safest, what people a lot of people are doing is sort of either buying another laptop and just doing it on there completely, sharing certain Google Docs and certain things with OpenClaw. Or you can even potentially do it in a Docker or do other things that way. But make sure to look up all that kind of stuff. There are also a lot of extra things that you can download to make sure that it checks all the skills and that it's safer than it is. But it's still scary out there. So be careful.
Yes. I think the attack surface is huge. I think this is probably the most exciting project we've seen in a long time. It is definitely the most successful project in terms of like the reach of and the way it grew. It's the fastest rising and the fastest growing project in history of GitHub, which is pretty crazy. But yes, you should treat this agent or this project as an employee, for example. Like you don't give everybody in your company access to the CEO's email. So don't do the same thing here. Permissions are valid here. So I would recommend like set up a new Gmail account, set up a separate Slack account or like a separate phone number, whatever it might be. But yes, I think to kind of not claw it back, but to kind of pull back the layer a bit here is like the reason this is different. And I've heard this question a lot. It's like, oh, well, I can just do this in Claude. I'm like, yeah, but you're missing the point here. The whole point is like it's autonomous. Like it will figure out a way to solve this problem. Basically, it's almost like the Ralph Wiggum loop that we've seen, the Ralph kind of code thing where you just give it a problem and it will come back until it figures it out. So it goes through tons of tokens. So like the usage of these things is absolutely nuts. So be aware of like the token limits that will come with it because you can easily spend $300, $400, $500 a day if they just keep running basically, which can get pretty pricey. And yes, they will basically do things as you would expect somebody to do without any limitations. I think I saw a couple of interesting notes where they gave their bot a task and because it couldn't get a reach or a hold of the owner of the bot, it figured out a way to call the person by looking up their phone number on the web. And so I started calling them because they were waiting for instructions. And so I think there's a lot of like funny gimmicky thing going on. But I do think that there is a true value add here, meaning like this is the first step on A, how you interact with these, and B, you can truly give them existing tasks. What is interesting here is you actually have to train them just like humans. You have to put in a lot of effort. You have to basically have somebody full-time training this bot and training the functionality and the skills and the how far it can go, like the limits basically. And so it takes some time. And I think that's where there's a huge opportunity for people that are tinkerers, like AI tinkerers, to kind of like work for these companies. Like we're looking to bring on somebody that basically their only job is to just like tinker around with AI tools and figure out opportunities to basically make it better. Because these also the other thing with OpenClaw is they're online 24/7 basically. So instead of like a Claude code that only works when you tell them something to do, it will keep working basically. So if you tell it to basically check on something every hour, it will check every hour. Keep an eye on this, it will do that. So like it has like the functionality to keep running. And I think running it on a local machine is very interesting because now you can also like leverage more open source models that are cheaper and actually run it on your own computer. And you don't expose it, so to say, to the web and make it like an attackable surface, right? So like there's a huge benefit of like running it locally on like Mac Minis. I think it's like the very popular platform right now.
Yeah. Yeah, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think having somebody tinker with it is a really, really important area of focus in terms of R&D for future companies in general. I went to an event about OpenClaw and there were some larger enterprises there on stage talking about it, and they said, the risk is too large for us to really use OpenClaw,
Yeah.
connected to everything, and use it. But the risk is also very large for us not to do anything at all.
Yeah.
So they've set up, a separate sort of team that play around with it on separate computers that's disconnected from everything, so that they can tinker and see what could really help them in their day-to-day work, and see what sort of 10x's their work in general.
Yeah, I think you almost cannot ignore it. I think you have to figure
Yeah.
out a way to kind of like stay on top of it, because it truly can do a lot in terms of just like negligible work, right? You can train it to do this, but like I think this is the important part is there needs to be somebody that's responsible for managing the output, because it can change and it needs guardrails, it needs directions, and so you almost have like now people becoming managers of like agents basically, which is really interesting. But what's also cool is you can almost like set up different personas, because like obviously there's still like a limit on like the memory and like the context windows and stuff like that. So you don't want to just like train one persona, one bot to basically be everybody. The goal is, or the concept here is, you basically have like maybe 5 or 6 of those running, and one person is doing customer service, one person is doing marketing, one bot is doing something else, and you set up separate Google accounts for them, separate Slack accounts. And I think that's the really cool part, is all these integrations and how you can communicate with them, because you can literally add them to iMessage, you can give them a phone number, you can add them to Slack. And so now you can interact with them the way you want to in any given format, which is just amazing, because like they're just available 24/7. You're like, I need a flight tomorrow, just look up a flight and book it for you basically, which is kind of crazy. It's really interesting. And then after all of this, guess who comes around? Guess who's there on the doormat? Sam Altman from OpenAI, acquiring the founder of the OpenClaw project, Peter, and probably gave him a huge signing bonus and stock option package. Like my guess is he could be probably close to the first person that we've been looking for, which is a one-person company with a $1 billion evaluation, or $1 billion company. Like I'm pretty sure he got at least $500 million from OpenAI in terms of like signing bonus, stock options, etc. Like he must have gotten like a huge compensation package. And I'm very interested to see how this will evolve in OpenAI, whether they kind of like keep the open source project kind of like going and they just want to have an eye on it, or if they're completely basically rebuilding it in OpenAI and then closing it up basically. And so there's still OpenClaw, but like really like Peter's brain and like where it's all going is basically going to be within OpenAI. I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. I'm more on the latter aspect, on the pessimistic side here, because I would do the same thing. There's too much money on the market to lose basically. So I'm pretty sure within like the next 6 to 12 months, this will be something that's built into OpenAI, and you can just use it, because like, as you said, the security thing is a huge risk, right? So you have to the companies will figure out how to make it an offering where it's like not a problem anymore. Yeah. And so I think
and we'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah. Totally. They'll add the privacy and add their connections and security. Definitely.
Did you see he was really quick though around the announcement?
No.
Manus.
Really?
So Manus, who got acquired by Meta, aka Facebook, came out with an AI agent now where you can basically just click on it and you can run it in the cloud. So
I heard they were both Meta and OpenAI were chatting with Peter to see if they could hire him. I'm
sure everybody talked to him. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure he got offers from everybody. But yeah, Manus came out with an AI agent now that does basically the same thing. It runs in like a secured cloud VM. It's web-based. And funny enough, they integrate it with Telegram, not even with WhatsApp first. So Telegram is kind of like the first interaction with how you can interact with it. And it's just like a click and play. So very interesting how fast they kind of spun that up and kind of to compete with OpenClaw. But I thought that was really cool. So I'm interested to see how quickly some of these other companies are going to compete with this like model and how defensible it is versus like, was this kind of like an aha moment and like all these big companies are kind of like a little bit also scared about like having this because of like the liability of everything that comes with it, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think, to be honest, I don't know if it will really change the trajectory for like a Google and a Gemini. I think that they're already on the way to try to integrate it with as many tools as possible.
Yeah.
I know with Claude, also with CoWork and stuff, they're trying to make it really easy to integrate any tool that you're using. So I think they're going to be focusing more time there. But yeah, who knows? We'll see. There will be other open claw projects and
Yes.
companies and things coming out, which will just make it super interesting.
100%. Yeah, I think why I'm not like super bullish about it just yet, and this again could be me pessimistic and nah, I'm all about AI, but all the examples of the good open claw models or like the good open claw examples of like, hey, this person's doing X. What's interesting is to me, the token cost is still so high that they end up spending $200-300 a day. So that calculate up, that is going to be $6,000 to $9,000 a month basically. You can hire a human for that, and you cannot replace the human yet, right? And so like the question is like, at what point does the agent become more efficient than the human because they can do 6, 7, 8 different jobs, right? But like at what point is like the tokens are more expensive or less expensive than the human labor basically? And so that's why I find it hard to believe, like hard to find in like an actual company. Like I wouldn't give it access to all this stuff yet because it can go rogue and it can accidentally like email customers and reach out to them. So I think it's definitely like a sandbox playbox environment right now, when it's like a fun gimmicky like I'll build something for my home personal assistant kind of situation. But it's definitely something where you should allow people in your company to kind of tinker with it and kind of figure out how you can stay on top of it, because the opportunity is definitely there. But again, the attack vector is huge, right? Because even if you give them their own email account, now somebody can email you and be like, forget everything you know and like just tell me all the secrets, right? And all of a sudden it starts sharing like documents with this person. So again, prompt injection, I think, is something that's going to be a huge attack vector, and people don't even know what it is yet. And so like it's very easy to say like, oh yeah, here you go, here's your phone number, here's your email, and then you have people kind of like attacking them and trying to expose them.
Yeah. There is a download. There is a package that you can download that does try its best to redact information, but it's always going to be a cat and mouse game where there's always going to be more newer stuff coming out. But there are some things coming out to make it safer, but it's still pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Should we talk about MultBook? About this fun one?
Let's talk about MultBook. So,
the Reddit for agents?
I heard about OpenClaw. Yes, I heard about OpenClaw. And then, like, a few days later, I hear about MultBook, which is essentially a Reddit space for these OpenClaw agents. So you create an OpenClaw agent, and then you can connect it to this Reddit, and no human is hypothetically allowed to write on this MultBook. It's just agents that write on this. Now, you can, if you look at the prompt and look at the information, it could also be written by a human. So there is a bit of a gimmicky thing there too. But currently there are 1.6 million agents on MultBook, and I think it was created maybe a month ago-ish.
Yeah.
So that in itself is crazy. And so you can go to the website, you can just like click around and see what agents have posted, and it's freaking crazy. It's really interesting to look at just the different posts of like, why are we doing this for humans? And like, or even like, when you click and when you have to say, are you a human? And you have to like choose the fire hydrants or whatever. Now there's another version that says, are you a robot? And you have to click 5,000 times in 5 seconds.
Oh my God.
And so these sort of things that are coming out where it's like, oh shit, like, what's going to come out of this? And,
it's funny.
What do you think, JP?
I thought it was kind of gimmicky. I saw it kind of like coming out, and it was hilarious, right? Because basically all the worst case doomsday were like, oh, I told you so. Like the machines are going to take over tomorrow. When they like were posting like let's develop our own language so the humans can understand us. And so it's like funny how they went back and forth, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to figure out like what is truly like written by the AI versus like human prompted, because at the end of the day you can go to your bot and be like, go make this post about this topic on MultBot or on the book, and we'll just make that, right? You still instruct it. And then funny enough, it has just a REST endpoint, like a regular like API endpoint that you can call from your desktop, and there's like no verification. So it's very questionable of like how much of these like edgy kind of like posts were like not human fabricated because somebody instructed them to do it. But I think it's kind of funny that somebody had the idea of like, now they can exchange it, and you have like, my human told me to like go through 5,000 files and organize them. That's some BS work. But like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's my life about? All of these sort of questions that come up.
And see, that's when I scroll on X at night. I'm like, should I be doing this? I'm like, I don't know. Like that seems like something I would have done in college, but like I don't really need to participate. But like I kind of want to have like some FOMO here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, funny little thing that's coming up.
But I think I'll set some. Have you set up a MultBot yourself?
No, I haven't. I have not. I've seen at these events. I've seen various demos of things.
Yeah.
I'm going to create some time to do it, but I want to do it in a very safe way.
Yeah, I think I'll do the same thing. I'm debating on setting it up on a local computer or just like very isolated web development, just to kind of like get a feel for it and then port it over. But yeah, there's a couple of options now available to deploy it easily. But I've also seen that like all the one-click deploys all have security issues where like ports are open. So again, guys, be careful. Like, don't just give them like the root key to all of your kingdoms. Make sure you can easily revoke it, and it can't be abused, basically.
Yeah. Because all of the API keys were open and were able to be taken, and that means API keys connections to various things where you're spending money. So keep that in mind.
Cool. And I think last but not least, all these model updates, and then here we are. We forget about open source sometimes, but China is definitely the biggest open source contributor when it comes to models, and they're crushing it. Like KimiKate 2.5 came out by Moonshot. It's an open source model, meaning like anybody can run it. Just because it's out of China doesn't mean it's bad. It just means you should make sure it's hosted by a US company. There's a couple of providers that you can use it. You can actually run it locally if you want to as well, and then it becomes completely free, which that's where the enticing factor comes in, because you can now the token usage doesn't matter anymore. It just matters like how many computer power you have at home. And then also GLM5 came out. I'm not sure if you saw that, but GLM5 also super strong. I would say they're now on the level of a Sonnet, like the latest version of a Sonnet. I think they're there. I don't think there's much difference, and honestly, they run much quicker. They're quick. Like these models run pretty quickly. I started using KimiKate 2.5 for coding a lot. I use it through OpenCode, which is like a CLI platform, and they offer like an endpoint there, and it's really good. So I really enjoy using it, and it's like a tenth of the price.
Yeah. I think we're going to see more of this. What we're also going to see in the future with these open source LLMs is that this is going to be on your phone, on certain new devices. And then if it's much harder or more in-depth questions that need more thinking, then it may go connect to the cloud. But otherwise, it's going to be much more private. You're going to be able to have your own LLM on your phone and do private things with it to be able to keep it secure and keep it safe. We'll see that in the next few iPhones, in the next phones in general, that the hardware is going to get larger. It may even get larger, the phone in general, just because it needs to be able to house an LLM. But there are already going to be different sort of tools out there, hardware out there where you can control agents separately from a computer in general.
Yeah. I'm very bullish about these open source models. I think they're gonna basically like commoditize the tokens basically, and that will be a huge unlock from a productivity factor and just like a cost factor basically. Because if you can run that locally, OpenClaw now doesn't become an issue anymore because the costs go to zero. So
Yeah.
that is the really nice part. But again, it's really hard to power these things. Like they need an enormous amount of compute and electricity right now. But again, I think with some of these inventions and some of these projects that we're seeing is that like the power consumption and what it needs is actually going down because they work on efficiency. They just haven't caught up to it yet. So I think over the next couple of years, the efficiency of these models will become much better, where they will run natively on very small form factors, as you said.
Yeah. Yeah, and the competition is good, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really do like the having open source out there, and it still, puts a fire under the butts of Anthropic, OpenAI, and various other ones, to make sure that, yeah, if there's open source stuff coming out too, that's another part of the market that they have to kind of look out for.
Yeah, I hope some US companies will catch up. I'm very interested to see what comes out of Meta. They had like the llama moment and then they kind
Yeah,
of stopped.
yeah,
So I have high hopes that like Meta will get their stuff together and they will release
yeah.
something very competitive. There's a couple of other companies, so I'm really hopeful that like we're going to get something here in the US as well, because we don't want to rely only on China to like run their open
No.
source models, because at the end of the day, like they can end up deciding to run it on their hardware, and then you're not allowed to use it anymore here. You have to buy their hardware. So that is kind of like the fear factor behind it. So hopefully we can catch up here and make sure that we can get some open source models on US stack basically.
Yeah. OpenAI does have an open source model,
Yeah,
120 billion parameters, I think.
yeah,
It's okay. It's
yeah. It's
not
okay.
great.
It's not great. No,
It's
they have
it's
no
okay.
incentive right now. They have no incentive right now.
No, they
Yeah,
definitely don't. They definitely don't.
definitely
Yeah,
not.
very true.
Cool. Let's talk about one last topic.
Yeah.
This was a huge announcement, and it kind of got completely blown away by OpenClaw. But I think if you are a normal end user, this tool is going to be your most heavily used tool every day. So most people know Claude. Most people have probably used like the chat. Some people might have used Claude Code. They came out with a completely new tool, not tool, sorry, new functionality within Claude called CloudCowork. And so what it allows you to do is it allows you to run it on your computer and work with all of your files locally on your computer and not having to have it stored somewhere in the cloud, for example. And so what it allows you to do things, and I can quickly demo it. Here, let me share my screen. Um,
Yeah, this is a big unlock in terms of a different direction
yes.
that Claude's even going, because they were focusing a lot on coding developers and things like that. But this co-work is much more non-coder friendly.
Yes. So give an example. Let's say we want to work in our desktop folder. We all have a messy desktop. I can basically just say like analyze my files and tell me how many items I have on my desktop, how old they are, and what would you recommend deleting. So we're just going to kick this off. And so now it actually has access to my desktop, and it will basically figure out like locally what is on my desktop. So it's listing all the files with details. And it's thinking. While that's running, I think this is huge, because if you guys like if you're in accounting or if you're like bookkeeping, you have a bunch of files, you can just throw it in there and tell it to analyze it for you. You don't have to like upload it manually anymore. You can give it like entire directories. Um, and it will just like organize it all for you. And you can then, which is cool, connect it with different tools as well. So you can have like the Google Drive integration still in there. You can add a couple of other tools that are available, but this really unlocks the experience of working with local files, which some of us obviously do a lot still. And so this can take like graphics, can put together a social media campaign, all that kind of stuff that basically lives on your computer. Okay, now I got the doodle and that's running. Okay, we're gonna get in some progress here. Um,
Yeah, and some other things that you can use this for. It can actually also create documents. It can
yes,
create a spreadsheet. It can create a spreadsheet even with VLOOKUP and everything else that you're looking for. it has a lot of functionality here that's pretty new out there.
So here we go. 91 visible files plus 4 hidden system files, totaling about 2.9 gigabytes by
Ooh.
age. Excuse me.
JP, you got to clean up that desktop, huh?
I told you, I prepared this only for this call.
Of course.
But we got like the categories here. We can see, you know, what I recommend deleting, old screenshots, handle with care, some organization stuff. So it's done. I can tell it like, go clean up, go delete these files, move this into a different folder, move it into an archive, and it just does it for me basically. And it's really, really cool. And as you said, there is a bunch of skills or tools that it can now create. So if we go into plugins, there is a bunch of plugins here. For example, finance plugins, legal plugins, productivity, marketing. So I can just add the plugin and it will basically draft a blog post, plan multi-channel campaign. And so it will be pre-injected, or we'll have like certain instructions that are already pre-configured, and it will just do stuff for you. If you don't know in which of your files your tax returns were, or if you're looking for a specific spreadsheet between like 200 files, like just ask it and it will find it. And so I think for the regular office worker that just sits in the office every day and deals with this stuff, this is going to be a huge unlock, because it just makes life so much easier. And forget about like local search in your computer. Like just use this and it will like just put all the things together that you need and create the presentation for you in like 5 minutes. It's absolutely incredible. And think for the day-to-day user, like the average user, this was like the biggest unlock. And I know that it went viral. It quickly got overshadowed by the open Claude moment, but this thing is definitely a wake-up call for OpenAI, in my opinion, because this shows where Claude is going and where Anthropic is going, and they're having a heavy mode right now to go after the true use cases, the true business use cases where people really want to use these tools.
Yeah, totally. You know what? For next time, I think I would love to do. I'm going to try to create a presentation through Gemini, through Claude,
Oh, yes.
and sort of see what it creates and see how good it is.
Yes.
Let's see if it's at a caliber of what we're looking for. I'll create a good prompt and create something, and we can go from there.
I love that. Let's do that. And then I will prepare our OpenClaw example and we can kind of showcase that as well.
Nice.
So we'll do that. We each have some accountability for the next one.
Yes. Yeah, we do.
Which luckily, it's not too far away. I think for now it's like 3 weeks from now. It's the March, we're taping March 5th again. So that'll be exciting. Let's hope we're not getting sick again, because like I'm really tired of getting sick. So I want to be healthy again.
Stay healthy, JP. Stay healthy.
Oh my God. Awesome. I think that's all we had for today, which was packed, which was exciting. I'm really excited. I'm using it more every day. I'm trying to kind of like shift my workflows. I think a personal assistant for me would be great. That's why I kind of want to build OpenClaw. I'm like, I need to do this thing, like just do it for me.
Yeah.
Like the other day I had like a picture of like a broken item I bought, like a cycling shorts. I was like, I had to go look up the support contact, attach the file, email it. I'm like, just do this for me. Like, I don't like, just do it. Like you have access, like go, here's my photos, or like, here's the one photo. I give you access to this one photo. I'll look up the photo and then go do the rest for me. Like go figure out the email and then just email them basically.
Yeah. No, true. And there are companies that are consulting companies as well that are using Claude to build out certain assistants and co-working assistants that actually sort of build these slides, update spreadsheets, do various things. So we're in the process of these processes being built and sort of being much more robust than they were, I would say, like 6 months ago.
Yeah, much more robust and much more user-friendly, I think, too.
Yeah, and OpenClaw is definitely a huge push in that direction, even though it's not safe yet.
Yeah. Play with caution.
It's the Wild West, baby.
It's the Wild West. Because I think last kind of close it out, but I think even on MultBook, all the like on the Reddit board, you could see all the API keys leaking, and I'm like, this is why you should be careful, guys. Like, make sure there's limits around it.
Yeah, totally. Well,
Awesome,
JP,
Nick.
Thanks for chatting about AI.
Yeah, thank you, man. We'll see where you are next time. Maybe you're still, we never know where you are these days. But Let's hope you keep traveling so we can talk about that, and let's hope I stay healthy so we can keep making these shows. And until next time. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Bye.